Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Di, and today I'm sharing with you another diary entry. So for this reading vlog, we are going to be doing some Pride Month reads. It is June when I am recording this, and I do like to read some LGBTQIA plus novels and manga and light novels and things like that during the month. And so I've already finished my first book for the month. I read the 8th installment of the Criminal Intention series by McCade. So this particular one is called Collateral Damage, and this one follows our two detectives, Malcolm Kalaji and Song Jae-yoon. At the beginning of the series, they're kind of paired together unwillingly. Song Jae is new to the area, and Malcolm is very much a lone wolf type investigator, but they end up getting paired up to work a case. And we kind of follow them throughout this series, working different cases while also watching the relationship between the two of them grow. This series plays out very much like a crime TV show. So think about like Criminal Minds or CSI, Law and Order, where you have what happens to the victim or victims in the first few chapters, or maybe just it's the first chapter, the beginning part of the book, so you know like what has happened to the victim from their kind of point of view, and then you watch our detectives work the case after that. I really enjoy this. It's especially enjoyable when my favorite TV shows are on hiatus. And I'm kind of at that point right now, but I enjoy reading a few of these every year. This is season 1, episode 8. So this is the first kind of season, if you will, of this series. And I really enjoy it. Every single one of the cases has been very interesting. I will say, I think of the 8 I've read so far, the first one is probably the most gruesome of the ones that I've read. I think that's definitely the one that sticks out in my mind the most, at least for gruesomeness. But this particular one deals with domestic violence. And so we have a woman who gets killed by her husband, and then their child gets kidnapped by the husband. And so there is investigation into the abduction of a child, the murder of a wife. There is some trigger warnings at the beginning of this book that actually spoils for you what happens with the child if you are sensitive to cases involving children. So I did find that to be very interesting and appreciative. Plus, there is some talk about the loss of a child from another character who we followed for a while in this series. And so all of that is laid out for you at the beginning of this book in the prior pages. I really enjoyed the investigation into the case. I enjoyed watching the relationship grow even more between our detectives. At this point of the series, they are finally together. And so it's really interesting to see how they support each other through things that they're dealing with at the moment. Song Jae is definitely going through a few things in this particular episode, and it's really nice to see how their relationship kind of works with what's going on with Song Jae, and how their like professional relationship also works, being that they're now also in a personal relationship. But really enjoy this series. If you are a fan of shows like Criminal Minds especially, I would suggest this series. So very enjoyable. I did listen to this one entirely in audiobook, borrowed from Hoopla. I know I had said when I first started this series that I didn't enjoy the narration of Malcolm, especially because I thought he sounded too old, but I really enjoy the narration of our characters now, the way they're narrated. They are the way that they're narrated to me, and I just really enjoy the narrator. The narrator on this series is Kurt Bonham, and I think he does a really, really good job, and I really enjoy all of these books. So I am collecting physical copies, and very, very much a series that I think I will reread in the future as well, and I really enjoy these. So if you're interested in TV series like Criminal Minds and CSI and things like that, I would definitely say to check out this series. But really, really enjoyable. I'm looking forward to the next one. I do have a copy of the next one already, so I'm not sure if I'm actually going to be able to get to it this month or not, but I'm looking forward to it whenever I do get a chance to get to it. And that's pretty much all I have for you for today. So looking forward to reading a lot more LGBTQIA plus stories for this diary entry, and I'll check back in with you when I've read my next one. Hello, so I have finished another couple things since I talked to you last. It was very, very warm today, so I've got the fans going and everything. Today, as far as work goes, it's kind of a little bit stressful. We have a really big company-wide meeting tomorrow. And so, yeah, things at work have just been really weird, but I have been enjoying some of my reads lately, and I do want to let you know what I have finished. So, the novel that I was reading, I actually had on my e-reader, and I actually had a purchased copy because last year I had heard someone talking about this series in one of their videos. I am not sure who it was. I'm trying to do a better job about making sure that I notate on a list where my recommendations are coming from so that I can properly make those notes and comments when I film my videos and let you guys know who to check out. But I hadn't done that at this point last year. But it was about this time last year that I had gone ahead and purchased this book. This is called Ghost of Lies. It's the first book in the Medium Trouble series by Alice Winters. This one, I purchased my copy off of Amazon using some free ebook credit that I had. And it is a mystery with a male-male romance. So we basically follow a guy named Hiro, and he can see ghosts. His brother was murdered several years ago, and the case is unsolved. So he ends up kind of running into this detective named Maddox, following a ghost to their death scene, and kind of gets off on a bad foot with the detective, eventually becomes a consultant to the police department, and ends up trying to find out through those means who had murdered his brother. And his brother is one of the ghosts that Hiro talks to and that you meet throughout the book, along with several others. Hiro has a couple of different ghosts that hang around him regularly. And so we see a lot of him communicating to his more familiar ghosts, as well as ghosts at crime scenes and other ghosts that are around, including ghosts of animals. It was really, really entertaining. I did enjoy this one quite a bit. It had me laughing out loud a couple of times while I was reading it, and I did quite enjoy the relationship between Hiro and Maddox. There was one point, though, in their relationship as it started to grow where I felt like the relationship intensity had switched really, really quickly. And that didn't bother me as much because I am enjoying the characters, or I was enjoying the characters at that point where that had happened. It was a little strange, I will be honest, but I did still really enjoy the mystery. I thought that a couple of the things in the conclusion of the mystery was a little strange and maybe not feasible. However, I did enjoy the mystery as a whole. I enjoyed our couple's relationship and watching that grow and learning about Hiro's background and a little bit about Maddox's background and family as well. And so all in all, I really enjoyed this one. It was a really good first book in a series, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. I believe there are 4 or 5 books in this series, and this author has done some other paranormal mystery series, short series, that I'm quite interested in. I think there's one that includes demons, and there's another one that's vampires, as well as a couple of other different ones. So I've definitely enjoyed this one, and I do feel like I'm really in the mood for paranormal or supernatural type mysteries at the moment, because this one just really hit for me and I really enjoyed it. So that was the novel that I finished. As always, during Pride Month, I do read a lot of manga titles, including the Monochrome Manga Club selections, which I usually choose a BL or Boys Love selection, as well as a GL or Girls Love selection. This particular one that I read was not the Monochrome Manga Club selections, because as you know, I do film a separate video for those. But I do often use my Hoopla credits to borrow titles from Hoopla during Pride Month of manga that I would like to read but am not necessarily interested in purchasing. And so I often spend the credits on titles from Tokyo Pop, because I do find that a lot of the time, if I'm interested in a Tokyo Pop title, it's not necessarily one that I would end up rereading. So it's a really great way for me to borrow the titles and see if it's actually something that I want to add to my collection, or if it's just something that I am going to enjoy on their service and return. So this particular one was one that has caught my eye a couple of different rounds during Pride Month. And while I'm talking about manga and Pride Month, my friend Bizarre Individual does host a month-long readathon every year. The name has changed, I think the last year or the year before that. But he's been running this readathon for a while. It's called the Pride Manga Readathon, I believe now. And it's basically a bingo board readathon where it has some things to look out for in the titles that you're reading, and then you can just mark them off the bingo board. Super easy, really fun. And so I usually participate in that, and I'm probably going to go ahead and do the same this year. But what I usually do is read first and then do the bingo board. You can obviously do it the other way and pick titles that you think will have the thing in it, but I like to just use one title for multiple boxes, because I find that's the easiest thing for me, especially when my reading is down. And so, yeah, so my first manga for Pride Month is going to be Send Them a Farewell Gift for the Lost Time by Cocomi. So this one is published by Tokyo Pop, and I have to believe that it is rated mature because there are explicit scenes within the story. But it basically follows a male-male couple. Our main character that we're following, his name is Naruse, and he, at the point that we meet him, has already broken up with his boyfriend. So we basically see him kind of going about his life now that they've been broken up. They've been broken up for just a little bit, but they've been together for 4 years. And Naruse ends up constantly like crossing paths with his ex. And that usually ends up with them getting in bed with each other. But this series kind of follows them through different meetings, and you find out why Naruse ended up being the one that breaks off the relationship, and kind of mostly his point of view about what bothered him about the relationship, what he's doing now that he's no longer with his ex-boyfriend, but constantly having these meetings kind of with the ex, not understanding why he's doing what he's doing, and just kind of following the progression of the breakup. And so, yeah, that's pretty much all this one is about. I'm not going to say any more than that because there is a conclusion at the end. I did enjoy this one. It was entertaining. I did kind of find it a little eye-rolly that Naruse didn't quite understand his feelings. And the reason that he broke off the relationship, I don't know, it just didn't seem adult. I don't know. For me, it seemed like he was throwing a hissy fit. And without, the whole context about if what he had been angry about was happening throughout their entire relationship, or if this was just something that had happened recently. But I feel like there was a reason why the thing that Naruse was getting upset about was happening, and that it was a justified reason. And so I didn't really get on page with the whole him not kind of wanting to be in a relationship with his ex anymore just because of that. I did enjoy the end. I thought that definitely moved in the right direction. I felt like at that point we're making more adult and mature decisions. There's still some problems, I think, with some of the things that had happened. But all in all, it was still an enjoyable read. I'm giving this one 3 stars. And this is the perfect example about why I use my credits on Hoopla to borrow titles like this. Because even though I thought this was enjoyable and entertaining, this is not a title that I will be adding to my collection, nor will it be one that I would ever reread. So, enjoyable, but not coming home with me the next time I go manga shopping. And I always thought that this was Send Them a Farewell Gift for the last time, but it's lost time. So that was kind of something for me to think about in regards to the story after I had read it. This mangaka actually also wrote another series that I have on my shelf that I haven't read yet, called the Restart After series. I believe it's a duology. It's a male. I'm not sure if it's a romance. I think it's a romance, but it's male. And I definitely had my daughter go ahead and pull that out just now to make sure that I have it on hand, because I do think that I will be reading that sometime this month as well. So really, really entertaining read so far. I'm pretty happy with the selections that I have completed so far this month. And Send Them a Farewell Gift for the Lost Time was actually a borrow from last month's Hoopla borrows. So because I didn't really use my credits for May, I used them on the very last day of May and borrowed some titles. So I do still have credits for me to use in June on Hoopla. So that's really great. And so, yeah, so far I've been really enjoying what I've been reading so far. And I am listening to an audiobook right now, which is probably my least favorite at this point of the novels that I'm reading or have read so far for this diary entry, but it's still very enjoyable. And so I'll check back in with you when I am finished with that one. I don't think I'm going to be done with it for another couple of days though. So until then, I hope you're having a good one, and I'll chat with you later. So I finished a few more things since I talked to you last. So I did end up finishing my next novel, as I had mentioned in the previous clip. And that novel was Thrown to the Wolves by Charlie Adhara. This one is the third installment in the Big Bad Wolf series. This is a male paranormal mystery romance type series. So we follow a guy who, at the beginning of this series, is placed into a program. So he works in a very secret branch of the FBI, I believe, a special investigations unit. And that branch ends up putting together another program with a branch called the Trust. They're kind of like the FBI, but for the werewolves. And so they're wanting the communities to work together to hopefully build trust between the groups. And so our character from the BSI ends up getting paired up with a werewolf, and so they end up investigating crimes together that are more of the paranormal nature. Our two investigators along the line get involved romantically, and so we're now in the third installment, and in this one we are following some mysterious happenings that are occurring on the homestead of our werewolf character's family. They end up going back to our werewolf character's family's homestead because the grandfather passed away, so they're going for his funeral services, and it's their first time that our non-werewolf character is meeting the family of our werewolf character, and so he's also learning about the politics that happen within the pack of werewolves and a little bit more about our werewolf character themselves. And so it was, I would say, a lot more family drama than I enjoy. I've talked about the fact that I don't really enjoy stories with a lot of family drama. The previous installment in this series followed our two characters going to the BSI character's family, so a human family, for his brother's wedding, I think, a wedding for one of his siblings. And so there's some family drama that happens with that. But in each installment so far, there has been a mystery. So the first installment covers the characters' first case together. The second installment covers something more human crime that gets uncovered while they're home. And then this third installment follows a bunch of different things that happen on the property of the werewolf family. And so I think a portion of me enjoyed this particular installment more than the second one because it had to do with the werewolves. It was more paranormal in nature. There's a little bit more interest in the whole hierarchy of the family members and the things like that. Plus, the relationship aspect grew a little bit more. Like, they keep learning more and more stuff about each other. The relationship is progressing throughout the installments. The second installment, I think it was because it was much more human, and so it read a little bit more contemporary. And with the family issues that our BSI character has with his family, I just didn't enjoy that as much. So now that we're more on the more paranormal aspect of the story, I enjoyed it a bit more. The first case that they work on is also a bit more paranormal in nature. So I'm tending to gravitate more in that direction when it comes to this particular series. So overall, I really enjoyed this one. I did end up giving it a 3.5, though. It was just missing a little bit of something for me, and I think the family drama aspect did weigh it down a bit more. So, still an enjoyable series. I have 2 more installments in this series to read, and so I'm looking forward to it. I did originally hear about this series from 365801 on their channel. And so, yeah, I have been enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in the next one, especially with what had occurred towards the end of this particular installment. So, yes, I'm borrowing this one from Hoopla through my library, and I've been listening to the audiobooks. The narrator is okay. I will say some of the lines and the way they were delivered reminded me of how certain lines were delivered in the first book in the Heated Rivalry series, Game Changer series. I think that's what it's actually called. The first book, I believe, is called Game Changer. I did read that a couple months ago. I listened to it, and some of the lines that are said during the sexy times that happened in Game Changer also happened in this particular story, and I didn't enjoy that. And it's not like full like sentences either, and yeah, it's just the way that the sentences were structured, the way it was delivered and things like that. It definitely took me back to those lines in Game Changer that I didn't enjoy very much. So that also played a role in my enjoyment of this particular one. But I will say, as far as the mystery aspect of this installment, I was much more invested than in the mystery aspect in the second book. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in the third installment, like I said, because some things happened at the end of this one that I'd like to see how they play out as we move forward. So really looking forward to continuing with that one. And like I said, I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. So now, as per usual, I continued with some manga volumes because I do like to read quite a bit of manga, like I had said, and I'd like to try to participate a little bit more in my friend Bizarre Individuals Pride Manga Readathon. And so the next installment I borrowed from Hoopla, again through my library. This one is Sirius, Twin Stars. So it is a girl's love romance that follows a girl who, when she was young, when they ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up, she always said that she wanted to follow in her mother's footsteps. And her mother is this really well-known professional tennis player. And so when she gets a little bit older, she tells her mom that's what she wants to do, and she wants her mom to coach her, and so she ends up getting really good. But there are always, issues when a parent is teaching a child, and our character ends up pushing herself a little bit too far in her training and things like that. And during a match, she ends up having a heart attack. So that pretty much dashes her aspirations. But her mother also kind of has some mental health issues because of it as well. And so at the beginning of this volume, our character is being kind of shipped off, for lack of a better term, driven to their kind of vacation house that's on the beach. Her cousin is currently living there right now. He's in college. He's trying to pass his exams, and he's not having a really easy time doing that. And so he's also staying at the beach house to try to get away, reset, try to focus a little bit more. So he's kind of been put in charge of watching our female character. And as our character is kind of getting acclimated to new surroundings and trying to just feel, I guess, again, she runs into another girl, and the two girls get to know each other, and feelings progress from there. And so I enjoyed this one. It's kind of one of those manga that's not a manga because it's not Japanese. So it's in the style of manga, but it is from, I believe, a Hispanic author, and it takes place, or our character is from Spain. And so it was interesting in the way that I was reading it, because even though it's not Japanese, the character design and the style of the formatting is very much like a manga. And so I enjoyed that. I also enjoyed seeing our character kind of work through what had happened to her, kind of working through thinking about what she might want to do going forward, the family issue that has arisen because of what had happened to not only her, but her mother, and how her father is dealing with everything because of what had happened. And then seeing these two girls get to know each other a little bit better, spend more time with each other, share their dreams and aspirations with each other. It was very cute. I enjoyed it. But I don't think this is a story that I would read again. So unfortunately, I ended up giving this one, I believe, a 3.5. Didn't quite hit the 4-star mark, because for me, if it's going to hit 4 stars, it has to be one that I would read again. And I don't think that I would read this again, because it is a lot of very contemporary things. Like I said, there's some family drama because of what had happened, not only in regards to the fallout from after she has her heart attack, but, you know, the whole drama about a parent training their kid. There's drama there as well, right? And so, yeah, it was good overall. I really especially enjoyed the ending. But I don't think this is going to be a story that I'll read again. So 3.5 stars, definitely enjoyable, but not one that I think I will think about again. And so the next one that I read was another boy's love. This one is called, Is This the Kind of Love I Want? This is the first volume of what I believe is a duology. This one's by Kouki, and I have to believe that this one is rated mature. Sirius, twin stars, I would say probably teen. This one definitely mature audiences. So it follows a gay guy who's living with a guy who's straight, or seemingly straight. I think that's how the summary says. Basically, they're co-workers and they've been cohabitating. They have slept together, but they've been cohabitating for about a year now. And they haven't slept together in quite a while, but their lease renewal is up. And so we follow basically our gay character's perspective while he's starting to think back on their relationship, how they ended up getting into their cohabitation, and how their relationship has been, and kind of wondering if he wants to stay living with this guy and renew their lease, or maybe see if he's gonna go out on his own again. And so I thought this was an interesting story. It was kind of shocking, something that happens to our character during the scenes that we get prior to their cohabitation. I will say that in case this bothers you, it does concern a point in the story where our character is kind of thinking about his sexuality, and he's been dating a woman for quite a while, and kind of feeling the pressure from his family to, take that next step. He thinks that he's going to be able to do it, but in all reality, he knows that that's not possible for him. So he finally tells her that he wants to sleep with men, and she stabs him in the genitals with a pair of scissors. So I know that can be traumatizing. And so I wanted to make sure that I said that in case it is something that's going to be traumatizing for you. But yes, there is a scene on page where she stabs him in the genitals with a pair of scissors. And this is like directly right before our character ends up cohabitating with his coworker. But I did enjoy like seeing our characters kind of go through that story, kind of seeing our main character try to figure out what he wants in his life, whether that be to stay with our straight or seemingly straight character, or head out on his own and, you know, continue on with his life. Like I said, I think this is a duology, and I do believe the second volume is available from Hoopla through my library. So I will be continuing on to the next one, hopefully by the end of this month. But I did enjoy this one. Again, though, I don't think this is going to be one that I would reread, and I don't think this is going to be one that I'll think about in the future. And so I ended up giving this one, I believe, a 3.5 again. And so enjoyable, but just not enough to make me want to add the title to my collection. If it does hit 4 stars, I'll usually go ahead and add the title to my collection, because like I said, that means that I would reread it again. But in this case, I don't think I will. So I definitely do think it's something that was entertaining, but yeah, I don't think that I would reread that one. The art style is a little bit different too. Like the character design was more unique, I would say, than other character designs that I've seen. But again, it's not one of the more enjoyable character designs that I've seen of things that I've read. So yeah, like I said, it was available for me through Hoopla. So if that sounds interesting to you, I would definitely check out Hoopla, because at least through my library, they do offer a lot of Tokyo Pop titles, Kodansha titles. There's some Denpa and a couple of other smaller imprints. And so definitely check out if your library offers Hoopla, and if through Hoopla they offer a lot of manga titles, because I do really appreciate their manga selection, especially because a lot of, like I said before, Tokyo Pop titles I don't necessarily enjoy enough to want to add them to my collection, but I still would like to read them. So I always find a lot of things to read from Hoopla, especially during Pride Month. And so really, really thankful for that. And then the last thing that I have read was actually one that I didn't realize I had purchased. So I had just filmed my manga haul for May, and for whatever reason I had forgotten that I picked this title up, because it was not on our usual buy list, or at least I didn't remember if it was. And so this was volume 1 of Boyfriend Sometimes Girlfriend by Musawo. This one is published by Kodansha, powered by Tokyo Pop. That's what it says. I don't know what that means, but this one's rated teen, and it is following our characters here on the cover. They're going to high school together. They end up getting to know each other through a circumstance. And so our male character ends up like finally asking her out, and she agrees, which is very surprising to him, because she's very popular. Lots of people think she's beautiful, and he thinks, you know, I'm just going to shoot my shot, right? And he does, and she ends up agreeing to date him. But what he doesn't know is that her family has a curse on it, where all of the females in her family, if they kiss a male, that male turns into a female. And so we kind of follow our characters here, you know, just at the very beginnings of their relationship. Our male character finding out about the curse after the fact, how he deals with that, and where our character's relationship is going to go from there. And so I really enjoyed this one. I'm actually glad we have a copy, because I would have picked it up. I gave this one 4 stars. I do think this has a really interesting premise, especially with something that happens at the end of this volume. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how this one is going to continue into the next installment. We do get quite a bit, I feel like, in this story that really rounds out the whole situation and, you know, gives different like perspectives into what happened to people that she knows because of the curse. So I really enjoyed this one. Like I said, 4 stars. Glad that I have a physical copy, and I'll definitely be continuing on with this one. I think right now there are 3 volumes, but I think only 2 volumes are translated into English. I'm not quite sure if this is only a 3-volume series, but I really enjoyed this, and I'm looking forward to continuing. So that's pretty much everything that I've read since I talked to you last. And I think because I've talked about 3 novels and I think 4 volumes of manga in this diary entry, we're going to go ahead and close this one out. And so, as per usual, because I've been doing this for all of my diary entries this year, we're going to go ahead and open up another Yarn Advent Calendar packet. And then we're going to do the Nido as well. So this is my Yarn Advent Calendar from Stitchin' with Yarn. This is the 2025 Yarn Advent Calendar, which was inspired by a Charlie Brown Christmas. So let's see what this skein was inspired by. This one says Peanuts Dancing in Auditorium. So let's see what this one looks like. Oh. A lot more autumnal type colors, more purpley, darker browns. I think this one will look kind of weird next to the previous one, because if I remember correctly, the previous one was more like flounder type colors, very bright, summery yellows and turquoises. This one is definitely more fall. More muted colors. Yes, there is that speck of like more of a bright yellow, but it's very little. There's a little bit of green and darker blues, but yeah, I think definitely with this particular Yarn Advent Calendar, if I decide to use them all in one project, I'm not going to put them in the order that I've opened them, because especially with the contrast between the last yarn skein and this one, there's a lot of contrast between the two, so I don't think I would put those together. But I do feel like this might go next to a couple of the earlier on skeins, maybe, or maybe it'll match some of the more later skeins that I haven't opened up yet. This is a very nice skein, but in the like whole kind of from what I remember of what I've opened so far, this doesn't really go with the more recent ones, at least. But it's still a really, really nice skein. So, really enjoyable. Still enjoying this one. I did go ahead and purchase the skein of the month. Peanuts year-round skein that Stitchin' with Yarn has been releasing every month in 2026. I absolutely had to purchase it, and you'll know why when it comes in, but still really enjoying the skeins. And so, yes, so that is my Yarn Advent Calendar from Stitchin' with Yarn. And then we've got my Nido Advent. So let's see what we've got for box number 12. It's this one right here. So I'm really hoping that it's a stress ball type, but let's see. Ooh, peaceful squeeze. That's what it says. So let's see. Oh no, this is one of those more air-filled type. It is a heart, but it is filled with air. So still very squishy. I suppose you could use that as an air ball, a stress ball, but I think for me, the ones with air are more dangerous for me to squeeze, because I tend to squeeze really hard. And I'll just tell you that I have a bigger Nido on my work desk That's more of a teardrop shaped one, and I've squeezed it too hard and it popped. Like there's a part on the bottom that has a crack, and so if I squeeze it, it releases the gel. And so I feel like the gel ones are a little bit more safe for me because they have a little bit more resistance as far as the squeezing goes. But I'll also tell you that this particular one that I gotten from that Advent calendar is a water-filled one. You can kind of see the water with the confetti inside. There's a hole in this one as well. I was squeezing it the other day and it got wet, and I was like, where's that coming from? There's a hole. So I haven't been squeezing this one either. I do have this one from the Advent calendar that I have been squeezing, but I feel like there's a hole in this one too because I feel like there's a little bit more air bubbles inside this one. So I have to be a little bit more careful with these types of stress balls, which is why I have been using the more thinking putty type, because these I can't break, right? They just stretch and I can't like make them unusable. And so yeah, I don't know what that says about me that I've broken some stress balls, but things have been pretty stressful over the last few months as far as my job, over the last few years as far as my job. So I don't know, there's quite a few things happening right now as far as my job, and so I've been really relying on these types of things, especially like during all of the meetings, and there's a lot of stuff that we don't really know. And so that's kind of unnerving as well. And I'm glad to have these types of things though, because they do help me. They help me keep my focus on something else while I'm kind of trying to absorb the information that's being given, the things that are going on with our department and things like that. So yeah. So I've broken a couple of stress balls. I definitely think I'll be investing more in the putty though from now on, because like I said, I can't break that. And so yeah, that's pretty much all I have for you today. It is kind of settling into summer temperatures here now. It's like in the 90s for the next 5 days or so. So we'll see what happens with that. You know, summer's not my most favorite time of the year. And because I feel like we're starting summer temps so late, I'm kind of hoping that it's not going to be an extra long summer of hot temps, because that would just make me very unhappy. But it's manageable right now. Our little air cooler is doing a good enough job where I'm not like feeling uncomfortable. So that's good. But yeah, since I do want to apply the manga titles that I read in this diary entry to Bazaar's Manga Pride Readathon, or Pride Manga Readathon. Manga Pride Readathon was the previous name. Pride Manga Readathon bingo board. I'm going to go ahead and fill out the bingo board with all of the things that I have seen in the installments that I read for this diary entry, and I'm going to pop that up for you right here, so you can see the progress that I've made. Like I said, I'm going to be continuing to read some BL and GL throughout the month, as well as more LGBTQIA plus novels until the end of the month at least. And so, yeah, we'll see if I'm able to complete the bingo board by the time the month is over. But this is where I'm at right now. Let me know down in the comments below. Are you participating in the Pride Manga Readathon? If so, let me know how you're doing. Have you read any of the titles that I mentioned today, or the series that I've talked about? If so, let me know your thoughts down in the comments, but please no spoilers. Do you have any suggestions for me? I'm always looking for suggestions, especially for the different types of themes that I have been doing for my diary entries, and especially like for this particular month, I need more suggestions for girls' love titles or sapphic romances. I think I definitely lean in more on the boys' love or male titles. You can obviously see that here in my reading, but I definitely would like to check out more like sapphic romances. And I think the reason that I've, kind of leaned more into the male as far as the novels go is because the ones that I've read, at least for this installment, for this diary entry, they're all mysteries, right? They lean heavily into a genre that I really enjoy. And I don't think there's a lot of lesbian mysteries. At least when I tried to look them up, there aren't that many. And so I'm usually left with looking at more sapphic romance titles. And I'm still like finding what I like as far as romances. And so it's not necessarily the types of stories that I want to read as far as romance in general, where the sapphic romances are at. But if you have ones that you really, really enjoy, whether that be male, sapphic, BL, GL, anything queer, let me know, because I'm always looking for recommendations. And if nothing else, and you just like to let me know that you were here, if you could leave me your favorite color heart emoji down in the comments below, it would be greatly appreciated and would really help me out. And that will do it for me today. So I hope you're all doing great. I hope you're all safe and healthy. And until next time, take care and sweetly always. Bye.